Free agency is hot and heavy right now. We are live in the Wicked Weed studio, wickedweedbrewing.com. Drink different, and we got to start out talking about the Chicago Bears. The Chicago Bears announced yesterday that they are going to be they're going to be bringing in Andy Dalton as their quarterback. So I would have rather you just stuck with Mitch Trubisky. Don't get me wrong, I like Andy Dalton better than I like Mitch Trubisky, but to me, this feels like just another sign that the Bears organization is god-fucking awful. And Ryan Pace and Matt Nagy are on their last legs. And if Andy Dalton is your Hail Mary play to save your jobs, I feel like you did it wrong. I mean, they franchised Allen Robinson, so at least he has a target to go to. Yep. They got Darnell Mooney and, David Montgomery back there running the football. But other than that, there's not a whole lot to work with in Chicago, and I just love they really made a push to get Russell Wilson, but they were rebuffed at every corner. Well, of course they were.
They're the Bears.
Right. It's the Chicago Bears.
They tried for Deshaun Watson, too, and failed there, too.
Because who didn't see that coming?
Yeah.
What do you have to offer me? The whole, we could give Khalil Mack and 4 picks and all this bullshit. They were never taking that deal.
No.
So
their numbers to winning the Super Bowl actually dipped when they made the signing. They actually had less of a chance to win more games with Andy Dalton signed.
Wow, I had not seen that. A 1-year, $10 million deal for Andy Dalton. And Andy Dalton's fine.
As a backup.
I think this past year he showed he can still be
a backup.
Okay starter. He's an okay starter in this league. You don't feel good about it, but again, this kind of falls in line with everything with the Chicago Bears franchise.
Yeah.
I mean, people expect the Chicago Bears, they're this historic franchise, one of the original members of the NFL, and they have all this history with them. Think about quarterbacks in Chicago. Who was the last good quarterback that they had in Chicago?
Jay Cutler.
And was he good?
Nope.
I think you're stretching on that.
He was
the guy that stuck around the longest.
Yeah.
I mean, he had a 7-8 year run, something like that, as the starter of the Chicago Bears. And he was around for a little while. Let's see, 2009 was when they made the Kyle Orton, Jay Cutler swap with Denver. And so from 2009 to 2015, he was the starting quarterback. And you went, nah, okay.
He had
the best they could do.
51-51 record as a starter there. Oof. Oof.
Complete 500 record.
Complete 500.
And then you got to go back to the days of my childhood in the early 80s to early 90s when Jim McMahon was around. Some people liked him, some people didn't. He's not a historically great quarterback.
Yeah.
The only quarterback this franchise has ever had that was top of the league was Sid Luckman.
Ooh.
And Sid Luckman, just for reference, finished out his playing career with the Chicago Bears in 1948.
Oh, my gosh.
That was the last time this team had a quarterback that was considered one of the top quarterbacks in the league.
Ugh.
Yes, Jim McMahon took them to a Super Bowl, I understand. But again, that was Chicago Bears defense. That was the defense leading the team, and the offense was just good enough to score them points to win. Mm-hmm. It wasn't great. And now Chicago Bears fans are all up in arms like, oh my God, we should totally expect better. Why?
Nope.
Why would you expect better from this franchise? They have given you nothing over the years but good defense. I mean, the defense is always there.
Always been
It's always
solid.
monsters of the Midway. Going back to 1986 and, that unbelievable defense that they had. And then year after year, when they went to the Super Bowl with Rex Grossman, what got them there? Defense.
Yep.
What makes them relevant even to a little bit right now? Defense. It's not their offense.
And the game has changed so much, you have to have a unique offense, which I think Matt Nagy has that capability of doing. Mm-hmm. But without that unique offense, defense can only get you so far.
Well, a unique offense is only going to take you as far as your talent.
Right.
And the problem is they don't have the talent.
Right.
I mean, they basically had to, handcuff Allen Robinson to the table to get him to stay. Because there was no way that he was coming back. They had to franchise him, and I don't see how, I'm not in the inner circle. I'm not on those telephone calls, but I got to imagine when they were like, yeah, we're going to franchise tag Allen Robinson, his agent went, fuck.
Yep.
And then when he told him, Allen Robinson went, shit.
Yep. Yep.
And then if they could ever work out a trade for him, he's going to put out one of those Antonio Brown videos. You remember when Antonio Brown got traded to the New England Patriots from Oakland? Mm-hmm. And it was all the question of, is Antonio Brown healthy? They're going to, he could be moved. And then he got moved, and that Instagram video came out of him just sprinting across the backyard, happy as hell. That's exactly how Allen Robinson's going to be when he's able to free himself from the from the Chicago Bears.
I remember that video.
I mean, you've been rolling with Mitch Trubisky over the last few years.
And he's such an elite
he was playing his best football of his career at the end of the season last year. All the people that were talking about, has he earned another contract? Has he earned the contract extension for the 5th year? No, he didn't. And I told you that at that time. And when people said, are we going to bring him back? No, you're not going to bring him back. Are we going to bring in a high-level free agent? No, you're not going to bring in a high-level free agent.
Nope.
No one wants to be a part of this little experiment because we all know what's going to happen. I mean, you snuck into the playoffs at 8-8 this year. I don't know that I see that happening next year. No. Kind of a stroke of luck that you wound up in the playoffs in the first place.
Yep.
And we know everybody sees the signs. Matt Nagy, Ryan Pace, they are out the door at the end of this year. Why would you try to, tie yourself to a franchise who has no stability in the front office?
Yep.
Now, granted, some guys may say, oh, well, you want to rise to the challenge, to be the guy to help save their jobs. I don't owe them shit.
Mm-hmm.
And what am I going to get if I go to Chicago? I'm always going to be playing second fiddle. They have, sure, Bears fans are great.
Which blows my mind that Russell Wilson would have them as one of the teams he'd want to go to.
I still don't know what that was all about. Maybe he has ties to Chicago in some way or just wants to be the next king of Chicago. But again, when was the last time that happened? They haven't had a king of Chicago since Brian Urlacher.
Yeah.
Devin Hester.
I mean, I think that Devin Hester, that's actually a great... The best football player, the best fan favorite football player they've had in the was Devin Hester and Brian Urlacher. Good for you. Glad you could sort that out. Andy Dalton comes in to be the quarterback of the Chicago Bears, shows that they struck out at every turn for every big name that they wanted, and they just couldn't do it with Mitchell Trubisky. And I can't blame them. But now the thought is, okay, what do we do after we fire Ryan Pace and Matt Nagy? Because this ain't saving their jobs.
No.
So, best of luck to you, I guess. But I don't know why Bears fans should feel anything for this team right now.
This, to me, seems like a backup quarterback, and they have a feeling they're going to try for another quarterback, though. It just seems like a small contract. It kind of feels like an insurance plan, kind of like what the Texans are doing with Tyrod Taylor. Tyrod Taylor might be the starting quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
But this doesn't feel like... I can't see them starting Andy Dalton at the beginning of the season. If you have Mitch Trubisky, just why not roll with him? This, to me, seems like an insurance plan to sign another quarterback.
But they already have Nick Foles. They're already paying Nick Foles $20 million next year.
That's still crazy.
Right.
I can't believe they're doing that.
Well, and we knew when they made that deal with Jacksonville, or with Nick Foles, like, that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
He's not going to come in here and save this franchise. Nick Foles is a guy that's never worked anywhere except for Philadelphia.
And that was
and that's never going to change.
Yep.
And now you're rolling with Andy Dalton. I don't think there is room for them to make another move. I don't even think they're looking at making another move. It's just get through the season best we can. And maybe I'm wrong on that. Wouldn't be the first time again.
You know the Bears have never had a quarterback with 4,000 passing yards or 30 touchdowns in a season?
Really?
Not one.
I mean, it doesn't shock me.
Yeah.
I mean, look at the list that I get.
Yeah, I know.
Let's go down the list. I've got the list pulled up here of Chicago Bears starting quarterbacks. Jay Cutler, it does kind of surprise me that Jay Cutler, I'm sure he threw for more than 4,000 yards, but not more than, you're saying both, 4,000 yards and 30 touchdowns. Or are you saying
the stat I said either.
Oh, it said either. Okay. No 4,000-yard season or 30 touchdown quarterback. All right. Kyle Orton, Rex Grossman, Craig Krenzel, Chad Hutchinson, Jonathan Quinn, Cordell Stewart, Jim Miller. Oh, remember the great Jim Miller days. That was hot. Cade McNown, Eric Kramer, Dave Craig. I'm leaving out some guys that started games because who the fuck cares? Jim Miller and Shane Matthews and Henry Burris started a game in 2002. Chicago has never they've never made quarterback a priority. And you see where they're at. In a league where we say you have to have an elite quarterback to be relevant, it's the one thing the Chicago Bears have never done.
Never.
To me, that screams bad franchise.
Mm-hmm.
At some point, you would think you'd go all in with a quarterback or tie yourself to a decent quarterback. I mean, hell, look at a team like the Carolina Panthers. Yes, I'll throw Cam Newton in this equation. Cam Newton, as much as we talk shit about him, he had some good years. He had a lot of promise. The guy won an MVP in 2015. They've had a franchise quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
The Chicago Bears have not. The Jacksonville Jaguars, they fall into that category for me. Jacksonville Jaguars, they're getting ready to get one, though.
Yep.
With the number one pick, they'll have Trevor Lawrence.
Yep.
And by God, Jeremy hates it when I use the word can't miss, but I think Trevor Lawrence is a can't miss guy. His career may not last too long, but I tell you what, he's probably going to set the league on fire for 6 years. So even they'll have a franchise quarterback. Mm-hmm. You look at all of the franchises in the NFL. Every team has had a really great quarterback at some point. Now, I would have thrown Tampa Bay into this scenario before they got Tom Brady. But, I mean, you're only going to get him for 3 years.
Yep.
Granted, 3 Super Bowls is pretty good, but... But I mean, like I said, when the news came out that Tom Brady was signing with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, he didn't even have to take a snap to be the greatest quarterback in franchise history.
Yep.
Didn't even have to take one. He could have blown out his knee before the start of the season this past year and not played a down. And still, the fact that his name was on a contract with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they were the greatest quarterback they'd ever had. And that includes Steve Young.
Yep.
Because it damn sure wasn't Trent Dilfer or, God love him, my boy Brad Johnson, or, Jeff Garcia. And just when you live in this quarterback hell of you've never had one and you keep taking these long shots, it never works. Mm-hmm. And the Chicago Bears have never figured it out. And here you go again. For some reason, Jacksonville had Mark Brunell. That's the closest they had. Uh-huh. And that is laughable.
That's funny.
Yeah. No, Steve Young was drafted by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He played 1 year?
One and 2 years, but he wasn't Steve Young.
No, he wasn't. He wasn't that. He was under contract. I get it. But don't try to tell me that Steve Young.
Drew Brees also played for the Chargers, but his right. He was a Saint talent.
But we at least knew who Drew Brees was then,
Right.
It wasn't like, Steve Young. Steve Young wasn't Steve Young at that point.
Yep.
He was a prospect, and the team sucked, and he wanted out of town, and the best thing they could do was get him out of town.
Yep.
But you can't honestly try to tell me that Steve Young's better than Tom Brady. Please don't. Please don't tell me that. Okay. I wanted to make sure that's not the point that's being made in the comments.
Right, yeah.
They had Steve Young at one point. He ain't better than Tom Brady. And the fact that he played for the team in that scenario that I gave and Tom Brady would not have, still wouldn't have mattered.
Yep.
In my opinion. But, you know, the Chicago Bears doing Chicago Bears things. And I don't know why anybody's surprised. That's basically my overall view of this whole